not make much sense for Eric Gordon to be returning this offseason, and it makes even less sense now that the season is playing out right in front of our very face. The guy who has been active for just 21 total minutes of game action, suited up for 3 of the possible 15 games the Sixers has played, is leaving a void on the Sixers roster, and Daryl Morey has to hold some sort of blame because of that. Doing a dive into why Gordon is even on this Sixers roster in the first place, why the mistake was made not this past offseason, but the offseason before, and how can this be fixed moving on from here. And what sparked my idea of this is doing a shout out to the guys over at Sixers Sense. Shout out to Nathan Doyle, who writes up this article with the headline, 76ers are learning a harsh Eric Gordon lesson they should have known all along. And to dive into the case that he makes here, as he writes, Daryl Morey and the Philadelphia 76ers stayed true to their word in the offseason, streamlining the roster in an attempt to make it younger and more dynamic. After making only 3 appearances so far this campaign, Eric Gordon's time in Philly is under a microscope, as it is becoming more evident that he does not match the profile of a player the franchise is aiming to recruit. The arrival of the athletic rookie VJ Edgecombe has epitomized everything that the Sixers wanted to become: energetic, talented, and aggressive. The 20-year-old has brought a sense of dynamism to the 76ers offense that fans have not been accustomed to over recent years. However, with Gordon heading into the twilight of his career and veteran guard Kyle Lowry already exercising his player option to stay in Philadelphia, did the Sixers waste a roster spot by re-signing the 36-year-old? Now, to interject a little bit here, and part of this is going to be a little bit of in defense of Daryl Morey, just for the logic of how this played out, because this was not a mistake that was made this year. This was a mistake that was made last offseason, because why that was the case is Eric Gordon had a player option for this year. Now, ultimately, when push came to shove, there was a you scratch our back, we'll scratch yours deal that was cut with Gordon from the contract side of things, and what that was exactly here, as Gordon opted out of that player option to return on a veteran's minimum. And the reason that was beneficial to both sides here is, from the Sixers perspective, the cap hit goes down to $2.2 million as opposed to the salary of $3.6. It would have been $3.5 if he did just opt into that player option here. So for Gordon directly here, he got another extra $100,000 out of the deal by opting out and signing back on a vet minimum. And for the Sixers, they saw their cap hit dip by a little bit over $1 million on the raw numbers there. So that was kind of the deal that they worked out. But the bottom line is Eric Gordon controlled his fate there, that he very easily could have just opted into that, which was at the time and as of last offseason slightly above the veterans minimum there. And ultimately, the Sixers signed up for that. Now, to defend the thought at the time a little bit before I go back into why this was a mistake overall, I still see the vision for what Eric Gordon is on a team that has Joel Embiid. We have really not seen that whatsoever across his time here. And to reflect on what he's put forth this season, 7 minutes per game, 2.7 points, has shot 50% from 3, but a grand total of 21 minutes on the season, just not going to get the job done. And why it's increasingly frustrating is during this time where we're seeing injuries right here, we have not seen Eric Gordon whatsoever. Now, to bring it back to the article, which brings up a couple more valid points on the topic here, writes, Gordon is becoming the 76ers' forgotten man. As mentioned, the Sixers are building a roster that is younger, quicker, and more athletic. Eric Gordon's raging war with Father Time would suggest that those are attributes he no longer possesses. Unless Philadelphia has a broader leadership role prepared for the Indiana graduate, it is becoming more difficult to grasp why the franchise did not take a chance on a more mobile guard such as a former playmaker Jared Butler. Head coach Nick Nurse has made it abundantly clear that even with the litany of injuries spreading throughout the 76ers roster, Gordon is not going to play a prominent role in the rotation. So far this campaign, the former Phoenix Suns guard has accumulated only 22 minutes on the court. To make matters even worse for Gordon, after the most recent 127-117 defeat to the Miami Heat, he was handed his 13th DNP of the season, even though Edgecombe was ruled out for the fixture with a calf injury. Despite the clear lack of motivation to allow Gordon to showcase his talents on the court, the veteran has still displayed the scoring touch that he can bring to this roster if given the opportunity. During the 136-124 victory over the Orlando Magic, the sharpshooter drained 8 points while recording 75% from the floor. Much of the Philadelphia fan base questioned the benefit of recruiting 2 veterans who occupy similar positions on the floor, especially given the statement of intent by the franchise to make the squad of players more dynamic. It is safe to say that the reacquisition of Eric Gordon does not reflect this thought process. Now, once again, to give the benefit of the doubt of here things, is I do value leadership. I do not value it in both Eric Gordon and Kyle Lowry, that I still can squint and sort of understand why Lowry is on the Sixer team. For starters, he's a guy who's been around Nick Nurse for just about the entirety of Nurse's NBA head coaching career. He knows the system that's going to run. He has the Philadelphia ties. He is a hero in the city because of the way that he was brought up, the time at Villanova, all these things. And I think this is like a nice ride off into the sunset moment after last year went completely off the rails. And to Lowry's credit, this is a guy that, like, you look over on the bench on any game, he is coaching his butt off, man. He's up screaming, yelling, getting referees' faces, pointing for guys to be places. I see the value of what that means. And in particular, when you look around the league, I know this is getting plenty of buzz right now around NBA circles. DeAndre Jordan with Derek Queen, and by the way, Derek Queen is becoming a very entertaining watch, worth a little bit of a league pass watch there. Getting the baby Jokic comps, all those things, he's fun. Do recommend Derek Queen in that. But part of the aspect of what is helping his overall process here is the way that DeAndre Jordan is being such a positive vet. Now, I'll start by saying DeAndre Jordan was washed like 4 years ago when he was playing for the Sixers here. I cannot believe that he's still racking up NBA contracts, but it is because of the clear coachability. There was a clip that came out between those two once again where Derek Queen is doing his press conference at his locker, just talking to reporters. DeAndre Jordan walks by and he just gets in there and says, no, you stand up, man. This is your moment to talk to the media. Don't do it sitting down. You just had whatever his stat line was. You were an important part of this performance by this team. I want you to speak with your chest, stand up. It kind of picks him up, hypes him up. And like little moments like that do matter for a guy who are in their early 20s and figuring out this transition into the real world and into the NBA. It's not the easiest thing there, and I get why veteran presence is necessary. I also get the aspect of Eric Gordon directly having ties with VJ Edgecombe. And I'm not inside the locker room. We don't see how these guys interact when there are not cameras on them. But I have not seen anything to indicate that Eric Gordon has gone above and beyond in the way that you would hope would be the case for that sort of vet/rookie relationship there. And for the Sixers directly, where they are feeling this is moments like now with the depth. It is one thing when you're a team like the New Orleans Pelicans with really very little expectations on the season that you can burn a roster spot like that. Well, the Sixers are burning 2 roster spots and doing it on a team that is so tied to the top of their overall salary cap being unavailable on a regular basis. Joel Embiid hasn't suited up in the past 7 games. Paul George missed the start of the season and has battled injuries throughout. Jared McCain missed the start of the season here. When you're talking about all these injuries that you knew were going to be the deal coming into the season here, it's kind of irresponsible to have 2 deadweight contracts at the bottom. In particular, what is jumping out to me right now is not having another big man. Now, this is not a disrespect to Dominic Barlow and Jabari Walker, who I think for the most part have been excellent on their 2-way contracts and have filled the role to a major extent. But Andre Drummond is the only true big man during the standpoint of a Dembona being sidelined here. Now, you can't predict those type of injuries, that those are going to happen throughout the year. A rolled ankle, sprained ankle like Bona is dealing with. But the point being, it takes away that optionality and having these different options on the bench by investing in a guy like Gordon. I also will note, I can't imagine that this is a style of basketball or just really situation that Eric Gordon loves. I understand that he signed on to hopefully be a finishing piece on a contender. That is not how things have shaken out here in Philadelphia, and I wish that that was not the case there. The point that I will note is bringing back to his contract that he does have the $3.6 million deal, and he is eligible to be traded after December 15th. So that is when the trade restriction is off there. He also already waived his implicit no-trade clause there, and for a guy like Lowry, held on to that. I think that means that Eric Gordon would not mind being moved whatsoever, and I do wonder if that is something that the Sixers do look into. Now, this is not a massive salary slot that you're looking at here. I also think there's a world where the Sixers just try and duck the tax and use him as one of the contracts in doing so. But that is a storyline to note, that as we start to get into closer to trade season and we are still sorting through what exactly the Sixers team is, that I do think it is much more likely than not that Eric Gordon, while he started the season in a Sixers uniform, will not finish it. So we'll see if Daryl Morey can ultimately fix this problem that was self-created and things. It is a huge bummer that is a roster spot being wasted, but nonetheless, these are the cards that were dealt. The Sixers got to work through the motions, and while he is still on the roster, I wouldn't mind giving him a little bit of run now again. This dude can still shoot the lights out, even if he is slow as molasses and is certainly past the prime of his career here. Gordon is still a guy that can get red hot from 3, and I wouldn't mind rolling that out on occasion to Nick Nurse directly there. But we'll see how things shake down from here. Do want to hear from you guys in the comments. Are you fired up about that? It does feel like Eric Gordon's been a guy that has sort of flown under the radar to an extent on this Sixers team. Nobody really talks about him. Nobody really thinks about him. And unfortunately, that equation includes Nick Nurse as well. But do want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments. Appreciate you guys for tuning into this video as always. Make sure you smash that subscribe button if you have not just yet. Drop a like on this video, and I'll be back talking to you next time right here on Sixers Digest. Peace.